Hi Miles, thanks for the footage. Sorry for the delay as per the email I sent you earlier in the week. Things have gone a little bit mental here of late, which is nice, but it also poses its own unique set of challenges. So, like I say, sorry for the delay in posting your lesson, but hopefully the information that I'm about to give you helps you. I thought the first spot or the first place to look would be sort of a comparison in regards to where we were last time and what we talked about. So we were talking about the right shoulder dropping and the arms staying back a little bit more as per Dustin Johnson in transition. Using that external rotation of the right elbow and therefore right shoulder to shallow the shaft, allow the hands to work down the elbow plane line and deliver the club a little bit more from the inside. So we saw that previously we weren't really using the elbow and the shoulder. We were tending to tuck the hips a little bit too fast, level out the pelvis a little bit too early, thrust the right knee at the ball, so it was the extension that was creating the sort of attempt at an inside approach. And then from about P5 to attempt to correct this issue and not get stuck underneath it, you'd start to roll accumulator 3, unload the wrist very fast in order to roll 3, and the sweet spot would start to tumble out above plane and then come across the golf ball with a relatively steep angle of attack. So there's a lot of extension, a lot of push in regards to what the torso was doing early in the swing, or early in the downswing, followed by some pull elements going in regards to what the wrists were doing very late at the bottom of the arc. So deep, steep angle of attack, pulls to the left, etc., etc. Right knee shooting out this way, hips extending far too much, far too soon. Some sort of funky stuff going on with the lower body. So if we take a little look at where we are now, just going to get rid of some of those lines. We see I'm starting to see a calming down of P4 again, which is nice. Hopefully you've been working on the drills that we've done in the past where you stop at the top. I think you mentioned that in one of your communications with me, so that's looking good. Head's not twisting as much at P4. The move you make now in transition is much better. Right elbow works externally, right shoulder works externally, butt of the club is working down plane more, but more importantly the shaft of the club, the sweet spot of the club should I say, starts to drop in behind you a little bit more. So at P5.5 previously, or when the hands are, I'll just try and match these up as best I can. I can't quite get these matching up, but when the hands are round about the level of the waist, instead of the sweet spot tumbling out in front of the plane, sweet spot now is well behind you. Shaft starting to bisect the right arm a little bit more. Much less tucking of the hips. You've still got some forward bend in your pelvis at that point. Whereas here, that's all gone. Right knee's calmed down tremendously, so nowhere near as much extension early in the swing. And you can see the delivery of the sweet spot into the ball now is much more from the inside, and therefore will be shallower than what we're seeing here, where it's very much from the outside, steep and across the ball versus hitting out for longer. The difference in the leg action is remarkable. Judging by your messages, the shot pattern's tightening up. And overall, the swing is starting to look a little bit more balanced, or certainly a lot more balanced than it did. But the key area here now that you've improved is what we talked about in that last session, which is that transition. More of a shallowing of the sweet spot. Therefore, we don't need to use the extension to get the club on the inside anywhere near as much as we used to, and therefore the leg action can start to calm down. So great work in that respect. I really like what I'm seeing there, so well done. I'm going to now get you swing up from face on down the line, match the two swings up and discuss what I'd like you to do sort of going forward before our next session. Okay, so here we are looking at your current swing. Like I said before, like a lot of what I'm seeing, a huge calming down of a lot of key areas has taken place since we started the process back in November. Or looking at my records here, it says November, your first swing that you sent across, certainly on this software, which is great. We're seeing a massively diluted version of what we used to see. The lower body isn't turning anywhere near as much as it used to. The head, therefore, is not getting directed. Sort of, it used to look back here. The eye line now is starting to get more under control. Still like to see it a little bit better, which is what I'm going to go into in this next segment. But certainly a calming down. I think it's a nice exercise to just look at the swing in its entirety first. As a bit of an overview, we've already discussed how much better that right elbow's working, and therefore the right shoulder, how much the extension in the through swing's calming down. Move through the ball with the legs looking a lot quieter. There's still that tendency to get the right knee shooting out in front as per the drill with the cane. Having said that, it's happening much less and much later, to the point now where it sort of happens post impact when the shot's been hit, and I would imagine it's having very little detrimental effect on your ball flight. So I would want to see a few little things change. I'd like to see you in your takeaway. If we look at it from down the line, I'd like to see you load accumulator 3 a little bit more incrementally, so you can see you keep the back of the left hand very much downwards at that point, which is fine. I tell one or two students that work, I tell quite a few students that I work with not to do that. One of the things I see with yourself is I see this little sort of, as you take the club back, the tendency to drop down. In an attempt to eliminate any rolling or any loading of accumulator 3, to the point where you almost reverse roll accumulator 3. The left tilt or the downward movement of the left shoulder can become a little bit excessive. So when you see a player's head move down in the other part of the swing, sometimes it's because that player doesn't extend. But in your case, it's because you're left tilting at too high a rate. You see the shoulder tilts are quite steep and not quite at 90 degrees to where you were set up. So the shoulder tilts are a little bit too steep at that point. So I'd like to see just a little bit more of a softening up process here, where instead of the leading edge being very much in this position, toe end pointing very much out in front of you, I want you to feel at P2 like the leading edge of the club is matching up with your forward tilt. And that in turn is going to just load accumulator 3 enough without you rolling it. It does need to load, but I don't want you to load it excessively. That would be detrimental. I just need you to back off a little bit in the early part of your swing. So just calm down the rate at which we left tilt. A nice way of doing that is just to try and match the leading edge of the club at P2 with the forward bend that you have. That'll encourage accumulator 3 to roll a little bit earlier or load a little bit earlier. And we'll just balance out the tilts, keep your head in the box a little bit more. As you go to the top of the backswing, I'd like to see you work on just a little bit more extension. So a little bit more loading of accumulator 3, P1 to P2. A little bit more extension, P2 to P4. So we go, in relation to the box, we go down early in the piece. and then we start to move across later in the piece. So the downward move, we're left tilting at slightly too high a rate. And then the forward bend is maintained just a fraction. The emphasis, if I was breaking this down, we want to turn, extend and left tilt during the backswing. I see a player who is really left tilting early in the swing and then really rotating later in the swing. And this player lacks a little bit of extension, so feel like you're going to almost, as you take the club back, the feel may be early that you go up and towards the target with the head, because that would be the opposite of what move you would normally make, which would be down and across. So up slightly and towards the target slightly. The idea of that Frosbury flop move, so the drill that you see, or that you used to see, say, with Aaron Badley, that really was that extension of the spine. Steve Elkington on YouTube, where he's stretching the spine off a great deal. That would be a nice feel for you. That would discourage that forward bend being maintained. So a little bit too much left tilt early in the swing, followed by a little bit too much rotation later in the swing. So left tilting too early, at too high a rate, should I say. And then from P2 to P4, we're turning at too high a rate. So it's just a balancing up process. Obviously the other drill would be to put the cane at the side of the head in the ground, touching the head to the right hand side of you, and just go ahead and make some swings without touching the cane. There you go. That would calm down the rate of rotation. It would encourage you to left tilt, turn and extend at a more incremental rate and steady up the head position. In the downswing at this moment in time, I would like to see you just continue to work on the pieces we've discussed. Get the transition even better than it is. Just keep adding more of the same. And what I'd also like you to see you do is practice a little bit more with the sort of towel folded up, about a foot behind your golf ball, about a grip's length behind your golf ball, to just encourage the butt of the club to get a little bit further forward at P6. So moving the release point forward so that the butt of the club's more in line with the middle of the right thigh, which in turn would tighten the radius. In order, as the left arm becomes more advanced, the right arm straightens quicker, the wrist angle is maintained more. Generally speaking, a player who hangs on to accumulator 1, the right arm, accumulator 4, the left arm, 4 a little bit too long, starts to dump the wrist angles during the downswing a little bit too early. So that would just be a continuation of the work that we've done. I think there's a lot of great progress going on there, that you've made huge strides since we started working on the action. It's just tidying up more and more. Just one final thing, we have worked on it in the past. Cane to the left of the head to prevent the upper centre drifting forward too much as you complete the swing. So a lot of that, Miles, a lot of those things we've discussed are things that we've done in the past that we need to just continue to do. Swings coming on nicely, you're progressing nicely based on the pieces that you're working on. It's really starting to calm down, and it would be nice. I'm just going to finish off. I'm going to take a moment to get one or two of your swings up from earlier in the process and just let you have a little look at where you are now compared to where you were, just to back up what I'm saying, because I think sometimes you maybe feel you're not progressing at a suitable rate. Maybe you want to get there quicker, which all players do, but I think sometimes it's nice to just keep things in perspective and look at how much you have changed in a short period of time. The swing on the left, obviously the most recent footage. Swing on the right back in January. You can see there, I mean, I don't need to put too many lines on the screen there to have you appreciate that The turning of the body has started to calm down. The knee action's different. The amount that the pelvis has come out of its forward bend is reduced. Obviously we touched on the head moving off the ball a little bit this time. Accumulator 4 left arm, much more under control. Shaft of the golf club in a much more manageable position. And, you know, overall a much improved P4 in the space of, you know, a few months. Impact doesn't quite match up. Through the ball, turning at a much more acceptable rate. Not quite sort of right heel, not flipping around quite as much. Right hand not wrapping over quite as much. Everything just getting a little bit tidier at that point. Wrist angles don't come out as quick. The position at the top, completely different. So like I say, you're making good progress. It's a tidying up situation at the minute. Just keep adding more of the details we've discussed. Keep refining the details that we've discussed. I think you're doing great. Keep working on the things that I prescribed in this session, and I really look forward to watching things progress in the coming months. Well done.